Hello, everybody, and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Album Spotlight, the show where I put the spotlight on a new album in progressive rock or a related genre that I think you guys will enjoy. If you have similar taste in music than me, if you're here, you probably do. So I have a really interesting one for you guys today that I wanted to get into. I believe this came out a little while back, but I only just recently heard about it. This is the band Ugly and their album Twice Around the Sun, which they're actually billing as an EP, even though it's pretty good size length. It's about 36 minutes long. Longer than the Lemon Twigs album, which was considered a full album. But it is a shorter album, so I understand the billing as an EP here. But Ugly is a really cool band. They've been around apparently for about 8 years. They formed in Cambridge. They've been touring around kind of this post-punk scene along with bands like Black Country New Road. And also Lime Garden. So they're in that kind of camp. Of course, Squid and Black Midi and those kinds of artists that are this more modern day eclectic prog style done in this post-punk kind of indie model. But definitely have touches of some of the classic prog, which I think is cool. This is kind of the new iteration of prog music that's coming up out of the ashes. And this is their first album, I believe. This is their collection of songs that they've been building up and playing live. They've done a lot of live gigs apparently and have established a name for themselves. And so we have 6 tracks here that are all really, really great tracks. And I fell in love with this from the first moment I heard the music, because when you put on The Wheel, the first track of this EP, you get this really elaborate a cappella opening with these really cool vocal harmonies. It's like madrigal style. Reminds me of Gentle Giant when they get into this kind of counterpoint vocal round kind of bit. And it's just a really cool way to introduce them to the world through this music. You know, this is really my bread and butter as a music fan. I love this kind of arrangement. I love a cappella vocals. I love that Gentle Giant-y counterpoint idea and this kind of Renaissance madrigal feel. So that was an immediate grab, and then it kind of proceeds from there to be a little bit quirky and strange, a little bit dark and haunting in some fashion, but still propulsive, modern, progressive rock with some folk elements. Really gives me a lot of kind of Gentle Giant type sounds. You know, it has some really cool kind of funky bass grooves at the same time and just proceeds in a really interesting fashion. And I just find it to be really carefully crafted and fun and exciting, adventurous music done by a bunch of younger people. And it shows that there's some excitement in this genre, that it can come forward for a new generation and not just be stuck in the nostalgia of the 70s. Continuing from there, I love Icy Windy Sky, which has this really jazzy flavor to it. Starts with this jazzy acoustic guitar before we get this cool shuffling drum pattern and these really elaborate vocal harmonies once again that do this refrain that continues throughout the bulk of the song. There's some soaring moments, there's some jazzy sections, and it kind of increases in intensity as it goes along and winds and weaves, and it's just a really fabulous track. I really love Shepherd's Carol as well on this album. Has some wonderful jangly guitars and a grounding bass line before it begins its propulsive nature. Love the vintage keys and this kind of groovy bass and shuffling drums once again. Has a bit of an upbeat kind of pastoral feel with these group unison vocals, and once again I get a little bit of this kind of, you know, Renaissance type flavor that they're bringing to the table, especially with their vocal stylings. The last 2 tracks, Hands of Man and I'm Happy You're Here, maybe lean more into that BCNR type style, even with some of those kind of deeper, more talking style vocals at times. But you get a lot of smattering of cool things, some really cool accompanying female vocal harmonies. The last track, I'm Happy You're Here, has a bit of the saxophone play, which is really interesting and brings another added element to the music. And the ending is really fantastic, where it brings a lot more energy and flair, some cool sax soloing and big group vocals to give you kind of this epic finale to this short EP. I love this album. I think it's really great. It blends those post-punk and indie rock flavors that are more current and vibrant, but mixes in some of that classic progressive rock spirit, some Gentle Giant type nature to it. And it really comes together in a fascinating package that I really love. I think this is an excellent album, and I recommend it to all of you. Give it a shot, even if you're not into those bands that I mentioned, like BCNR and Black Midi. You know, I think some people probably would shy away from that kind of stuff and like the more vintage progressive rock who watch my channel. But I feel like this is one of the best examples of being able to have that style but also blend in some really classic sounds that I think fans of classic progressive rock could really love. So that's my takeaway for the album. I've really been enjoying it, and it's slowly creeping up as one of my favorites of the year. So thank you guys for joining me. Hopefully you appreciated this review and recommendation, and we'll go check out the album and let me know in the comments if you've heard this, how you feel about it. And I'd love to know your impressions. So thank you guys so much, and I'll catch you guys hopefully in a future episode. Bye, everybody.